Hello and good evening all. Second time hosting, fantastic intro, no problems at all. Scotty, I thought you were sleeping there. Are you alright, mate?
Oh, mate, head in my hands. You know, it's bad when you wish Martin was hosting.
Sorry, folks, that was very rude of me. Welcome to the Rangers Rabble, and it's me, Jamie, hosting again tonight. Thanks for the boost there, Scotty boy. Appreciate it. Elaine, how are you doing? Good to have you on again.
Not bad at all, yeah. Looking forward to it. See what you bring to the table instead of Martin.
Yes, we'll see. If he stopped creeping about in the background, we'd got on better, I think, wouldn't we? Brian, my good old buddy, how are we?
Very well, Jamie, yourself?
I'm good, good. Okay, folks, we've got a lot to cover. There's a lot of things happened probably in the last day or two anyway that we can get our teeth into. Scott, do you need the toilet?
No, I'm all right, by the way. Thanks for asking.
I asked you at the start. You're fine. You're looking great. Listen, you're going to do enough talking tonight. I just know it, so you'll get your turn. Don't you worry. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming along and listening. So one thing to call out, and I know there's only 11 of us on just now, and I will come back to it, but we are 30 subscribers away from 3,000 on YouTube. So milestones to get to 3,000, folks. So let's just keep hitting that subscribe button and telling all your friends and all your Rangers supporting family members to do that for us as well. And let's get to that milestone. So let's kick off tonight's podcast. And I know, Scotty, you were on the match reaction for the Dundee game. So you can go make yourself a cup of tea, mate. You don't need to say anything here. No, I think what will be good that the dust has now settled on the Dundee game, and we're hoping that we can bring a little bit more positivity. Of course, we're going to maybe look at a couple of players that we need to dissect and have a little look at and see what we think. And we'll bring in some comments and stuff like that. So, Elaine, I'm going to kick off. Dust has settled on the Dundee game, a 1-0 victory, which is very important. But what's your overall thoughts? How are you feeling about the performance? I say first.
Performance, not great, but we got the result, and actually that's all that matters. As you touched on there, it was absolutely a huge result, especially when other results went our way. Absolutely massive. And I suppose, I know that we keep saying it, and at some point something has to change because we aren't playing particularly well. But at the end of the day, 3 points, still top of the league. We've not opened, obviously the gap with Hibs is still the same, but we're opening up a slight gap with the rest of the table. And yeah, just absolutely massive. So I was tearing my hair out that second half. I didn't enjoy it one bit. It was a tough watch, but at the end of the day, 3 points is all that matters.
Brian, second half was okay. Was that for me, or I'm asking you the question? Was that the worst second half performance we've seen this season? The worst performance, and I'm including the Dundee United. Yeah.
There's been a few contenders, but it wasn't great, to be quite honest. Sitting in that stand behind wasn't good for the nerves, and it was a very difficult watch. But as Lane's just said, it was 3 points, and we've had a lot of mitigating circumstances this season with COVID, injuries, suspensions. So it's nice to win. It's nice to play ugly and win. It'd be worse, obviously, if you play bad and you either draw or get beat. Even it makes it 10 times worse. But to play ugly and win, it's not bad. I mean, I know it's not great, but at this stage of the season, you're just wanting 3 points and get up the road.
Scotty, do you think it's safe to say that I see a lot of champions and a lot of clubs or teams that win things, they have got a lot of ugly victories? Would you say that was one of them? And I know you were on the match reaction and it drove you to drink non-alcoholic beer. So how are you feeling now the dust is settled?
Well, I'm on the peppermint tea now, so I've calmed down somewhat. Rock and roll. Brian, I like this one. It's one of my favourite sayings. There's no pictures on the scorecard.
Yep.
So when you come to the end of the season, you're thankfully not going to remember this game. And it really, really is. And I said this, it's on to Thursday. I mean, it's actually, thankfully, a game that I've not actually thought about since Sunday. So I was able to, I don't know, it's almost like having a demon on your shoulder thinking about Sunday, isn't it? But yeah, as I said on the pod on Sunday, I think Thursday football away from home in the Europa League forget the Champions League, but Thursday League and the Europa League seems to bring the best out in us, particularly in challenging circumstances. And I really think we need to start being tested on a regular basis. I'm not talking about turning up and having a game of football and being physically battered and just having teams like digging at us, but actually having teams of playing against teams of quality. And I think we actually need to be tested on a regular basis just to raise that level, because it needs to happen soon. Because then I think we'll be able to take it back into the league, together with the continuity of having the players returning on a regular basis. So thankfully we've got a game on Thursday, but yeah, really excited for it.
I just want to there's an elephant in the room, or perhaps not an elephant in the room, right? So everybody's talking about this and asking me about this, right? So there is not a blow-up doll in my bedroom. That is a mannequin, a decorative piece. It's my wife's. It's not mine. It's not my wife, like someone else said. But we can move on from that.
Is it intentionally got the same haircut as you?
Well, same, yeah. Anyway, some of the things no, I'm not going to go there. Right, anyway, sorry, we'll move. Some of the things I was asked to do to that, no.
Just put some lipstick on it.
Yeah, move on. And I know you maybe touched on this a little bit, but it's something that we've been quite defensive of in this pod. And there's a few of the guys who are probably listening who maybe want to jump in and chat here, but in the comments. But for me, there's a bit of a turn in Morelos' performance at the weekend. Brian, what do you think about that? And I mean a bit of a downturn, and it pains me to say it because I've been a real big advocate of Morelos and what he brings to the team out with his goal scoring. And even this season, I've not seen him drop off like this. But what was your thoughts on Morelos' performance at the weekend?
I've seen snails move quicker sometimes. His mobility was just terrible. It was like he was expecting the ball to go to him rather than him make runs or do a bit of donkey work. But yeah, it is noticeable when his performances don't sort of are up to the standard. Rangers seem to sort of dip. It could be a coincidence, I don't know, but his mobility is definitely not as good as it used to be. He used to run the channels, do a bit of donkey work, but it's definitely dipped off. And for what reason, I don't know, but he does. He certainly looked as though he's got a bit of extra poundage on him on Sunday. See,
I know, Scotty, you said that in the match reaction as well, and I thought he came back looking really trim. I don't know, because he didn't really have a big pre-season because he was away playing with Colombia and then maybe got 2 or 3 weeks off. But I thought he came back looking really trim. Do you think he's regressed?
Yeah, I do. I think I said it. I thought after 10 minutes it was a battle of the fatties between him and Griffiths. I looked at Griffiths and I thought, how is he a professional footballer? And then I saw Morelos. I was like, wow, that shut me up pretty quick. But yeah, we've all been on holiday. We've all piled into the buffet a bit more. But when you come home, you don't continue on the buffet. And it looks like he has. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. But when he came home, we all saw the pictures where he was out. Now, to be fair, it was potentially one picture, but he was out in the car park, giving it, doing his own pre-season training. And you thought, well, hold on a minute, maybe actually he's going to be right up for this. But no, I totally agree. I kind of thought as well. Just looked a bit slower and just that's spot on. He just didn't look interested. And I think he's one of the ones, because he's such a good outball. See, when we're up against it, you want him on because he picks up the silly fouls. He draws in the fouls. He buys his time, and when he's not interested, I think you notice it even more than some of the other players because he's so important when he is on it.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on, because if you notice what he does, particularly in the domestic games, and it would have been a great benefit to have him do it, is when the ball goes into the channel and it goes forward, maybe we've cleared our lines, he's very quick on the defender, and it stops them being able to just punt the ball straight back up the pitch. He stops doing that. Even getting within 5-10 yards of them, it gives them the time just to hunt the ball. It just causes us problems. Just because he can't be bothered to either find the right area of the pitch where he ordinarily would be, or he just can't be bothered to chase it down. So it is frustrating. But hey, this is supposed to be positive.
I was going to say, that said, with a positive, fantastic assist though. So
The goal was the goal was one of the best goals I think we've scored this season, and his little touch there was perfect. And it's a funny old game. Did I just say that anyway? People have different opinions, and there's Ray saying that he thought he would have gave pass marks to him, and we've said that on this podcast all this season, where Morelos is doing a lot different work than he'd done previously, and he's not a goal scorer. He's more of an all-round player. I think he'll be a better player, Brian, when he does move on for probably the last year and a half that he's had. But you're not giving him pass marks, are you?
I don't know for the goal for the assist. I'm struggling to remember what else he kind of did on Saturday. I'm struggling. It was. I mean, I'm not saying anybody else was far better, but there wasn't many that got pass marks on Saturday. Put it that way. There really wasn't. I want to just keep this real, so we'll go into something positive in a minute. But I think there was probably, I don't know what you felt, but I thought there was maybe another person on the park that played equally as bad, or maybe even worse, and that was Connor Goldson. And Scotty, is this getting? I don't want to talk about his contract, but is this what it is? Is this the problem? Is Goldson's contract the problem?
If you don't want to talk about it, don't ask me.
I want it from you. Give us it.
No, it's not at all. It's just, look, when you're a professional footballer, and I know I sound like I'm talking like I was one, but I played a lot of football, and
Ricky Foster.
You can't. You won't know. Right. So you can't expect to go through your entire career playing at the best of your ability, and sometimes you are going to dip in form. Now, what's exacerbated that is the fact that we've had zero continuity, either with the goalkeepers, with his right back, his left back, or his centre defensive partnership. And Goldson is a player that is apparently the most vocal, so he's the one that can organise it. But if he's playing with different players each week, it's not going to help. And it really showed, because the defensive line that we were playing, it was like a turret of a castle. It was all over the shop. And yeah, it's obviously there's problems. He is making a couple of individual errors, which are being exacerbated because they're leading to chances or goals, which sometimes you may be able to get away with. I wouldn't put it down to his contract. I think he's perfectly happy here. If he goes, he goes. I think in his head, the decision has been made nonetheless.
What is that decision?
He'll be focused.
What do you think that decision is?
Mate, I don't know. I hope he stays. I've spoken to a few people, and they're convinced he's staying. For me, we don't know what the situation is with the contract, whether the contract is on the table, it's off the table, they're negotiating. Where we are. This is the thing. I suppose we need the questions to actually be asked. These specific questions. Where are we with the contract?
Elaine, are we just being too critical too early? Because we are top of the league, and it's only 6 or 7 games in. Are we just? I know Brian's an advocate of this one. We've spoilt last season. Are these players just not performing at the levels that could be a once in a lifetime season last season?
Potentially, yes, because I think, especially if you look at the start of the season, we went away and dropped points. What was it, at Tannadice? And in any season anyway, you can go and do that. Last season was such a freak season. It was so good. Of course, it's never going to happen. We're never going to get that again. If you had given us the opportunity to be in the group stages of the Europa League, if you'd given us 6 points ahead of our city rivals, but still top of the league by a point, in September, we'd have all bitten your hand off for it. I think the reason why we're being more critical though is because we know from previous seasons that how quickly it can fall apart, and I think we're just urging the team to get on and to start finding a bit of form, because we can all see it. We can all see that there's the potential there to really crack on, open up a lead, and potentially, if we kept going the way we're going, we could have a really almost insurmountable lead by Christmas. And I think that's the frustration, and that's why we're all coming back, and we are all we're not negative, but we're probably spoiled last season, and we're just desperate for it this season again.
Yeah, Brian, give me a bit of to move on to something more positive, I think I've been very critical of him, and I think a lot of us have. But John Lundstrom was the best player in the park by a country mile, probably. I know McLaughlin played well and saved the pen, but we're starting to see a different side to John Lundstrom. Maybe he's realised it's not a walk in the park up here.
Possibly. And another thing that's probably helped him is that he hasn't got Davis's shadow on the park. It's his position. He hasn't got Davis sort of beside him. Because there was a few times we were critical of Lundstrom falling into where Davis would be, but now he's got the position himself. He's had it for a couple of games now. He seems to have grabbed the position and sort of quite comfortable with it. And he knocked the ball quite effortlessly around the park on Saturday. He was very comfortable, and there was a couple of times he went lunging into tackles and won the ball and got the play back. And no, I must admit I was quite critical of him at the start, but I think we were obviously a bit hasty in the sense that he was still trying to find his feet, and he was obviously they were trying to shoehorn him into the team with Davis, but obviously now it's clearly it doesn't work. But they've now found out that you can actually take a spot for Davis and give him a rest, But going back to what Elaine was saying of the season, there's also we all know the pressure of this season. The season, at the end of the season, we know what's on the line. So there's that as well,
Yeah.
The money at the end of the season.
Is that putting extra pressure? That's not putting extra. I don't think that puts extra pressure on us, Scotty. Do you think the players are even thinking, we need to win the league to get into the Champions League next season?
No, not yet. No, I don't think it really enters your head until turn of the year. So,
what about? What's your thoughts on John Lundstrom, Scotty? I know you're quite forthright in your opinions on a lot of things, but do you think Lundstrom can replace Steve Davis?
No, not at all. Different skill set, different players. I don't think if you're looking for like for like, I don't think you can really go down that route or talk about Lundstrom in that manner. I think it was really telling in Gerrard's vociferous defence of Lundstrom in his post-match.
Yeah.
And I think he knows. I don't think that performance by John Lundstrom or the previous two warranted that defence. I don't think he's been that good. I think he has done the bread and butter very, very well. And if you're telling me that he's put in performances that essentially other players in the squad couldn't have done, then I think we're in a whole world of trouble. I think he's been markedly improved on where he started, but that doesn't mean we should clamour on how good he is or can be. I think every single game he's raising his own benchmark, and that's all he's doing. But for me, he's still a long way to go in terms of passing ability, getting around the pitch, overall bringing energy to the team, particularly in that position, that midfield engine. We need motors in there, basically, because for all the will in the world and how good Kamara is, he's not really a motor. He isn't one to get things motoring, and we all have our expectation of what Lundstrom is in our head, and he's not quite there yet. So, without reading too much into Gerrard's comments, I'm not really buying it. Not yet.
Okay. Before we move on, folks, just to touch on I think the under-19s are playing in the UEFA Youth League tonight, isn't it? 7:30 kickoff. So we'll try and keep an eye on that as the chat goes on for the first half hour anyway. We'll see if we update it. So I want to move on to something that I do not want to talk about, and it's the pandemic and it's COVID. But it is massive in Scottish football right now with the vaccine passport thing. So we cannot not speak about it. We've got to speak about it, Elaine. So what is going on? What's going to happen here? Where does the club have to toe the line, of course, for the law? But what happens?
I was quite vocal this week in saying that the club have to toe the line. At the end of the day, it's not the club's decision. I think that actually we might see clubs getting together to voice their opposition to it, and I think that would be really powerful because there can't be. I mean, it's only going to affect obviously clubs who are getting over 10,000 fans, but there's the clubs need to really speak out on it. That said, there's not a great deal they can do. I know that they said, so I did see something today. Has it been put off for 2 weeks, or it's still coming in, but there's a bit of leeway for 2 weeks? All I can think about is that it's going to be absolute carnage. I have, everyone's got their own opinions. It's not for me to tell people what they should and shouldn't be doing in terms of getting a vaccine or whatever. People have made their mind up by now if they're going to get it, if they're not. At the end of the day, purely from my point of view, it's the logistics of it. I just can't. We've also, even when they brought in the QR codes for the friendlies, people trying to figure out whether you put your season ticket in or you swipe your QR code. That was adamant. The queues outside Ibrox, even still, are absolutely mental. I just can't see it working in any shape or form.
Brian, at what point then do we think here then? By the 18th of October, they've probably got that, you know what, this isn't working, we need to take a backward step and scrap it. Brian, you're on mute.
I really don't know. They don't even know what they're... I mean, this was meant to be all ready and set up by this weekend, and now it's already delayed nearly 3 weeks. I just... As Elaine's saying, it's going to be a logistical nightmare. Well, how many do they have to check in a match day?
They said
10,000?
One in five, which 10,000 for us.
10,000.
Oh,
so are they honestly going to stop 10,000 people and say, right, where's your certificate? And what 10,000? Is it just going to be completely random? So no, I'll be amazed if it goes ahead, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes ahead as well, because I know what this lot are like.
Scotty, I know they backtracked down south with it. Are you surprised they never backtracked up here, or is there a bit of stubbornness kicking about that means they won't?
Throughout the whole pandemic, it's been my view and a lot of people's consensus view, particularly down here, that what the Scottish government do is what the Westminster, really keen to say that, Westminster, do, just make it a little bit more Scottishy. So maybe stick some haggis in there and a I see you, Jimmy Hat. So yeah, I think they'll backtrack eventually, because they'll come around to it. They follow a trend a couple of weeks later. Interestingly, they need to waste money and resources before they do that. So they need to have some accountability for a load of squandered money. I suppose if anyone's actually watched and listened to me before, they know I'm not exactly a fan of Nicola Sturgeon and her cronies, so I'm not really going to have much positive thoughts or anything to say on the matter. I'll be surprised if it's enforced. It just sounds ludicrous. It's one of those things, like, if it sounds ridiculously stupid and it looks ridiculously stupid and you think it's going to be ridiculously stupid, that's because it fucking is ridiculously stupid. And yeah, anyway,
I would kind of understand if there was an outbreak. I would kind of understand if there's been an outbreak at a stadium or a large event. But according to all the stats, there's not been. So, you know what I mean?
No, you're right. No, it's not. It's like, who's asking the questions? Who's holding these people to task?
Because that's what I'm wanting to ask. I'm thinking there's got to be somebody who had worked in sporting events logistically. And this starts, Elaine, is this starting Sunday? Is Sunday the first time we're going to actually test this out?
It was supposed to be, so certainly it was supposed to be that from October it came in, so any events over 10,000, but also including, I think, nightclubs and certain gigs, that sort of thing, were also going to have to be, or the vaccine passports were going to have to be shown. I think now there's been a slight backtrack to give it a 2-week leeway. I think it might still come in this weekend, but they've said something along the lines of, certainly with nightclubs, they'll have 2 weeks to fully kind of implement it and get their staff up to speed on it. So as I said, I just think it's a logistical nightmare. I think it's a difficult one, but the club are absolutely backed into a corner here, and I think as well it's a really bad. It's terrible for the clubs, because you're then having fans who, I've started seeing people saying, well, will I get a refund in my season ticket? Well, no,
Yeah.
I think the answer, there's not going to be. I think everything will be watertight this year, but it's it's a shame. It's a shame for clubs, because it'll be them that suffers, really, and the fans.
I think
it's going to be the clubs that it's going to cost the club more money, isn't it? Because I've got more people in to check all these things.
I feel sorry for the fans. It's the decision you want to make to be double jabbed or whatever. People have paid a lot of money for their season tickets, and potentially they're. I still don't see why people wouldn't be still going to the games anyway. And like Chris is saying there, this passport thing is probably a bigger thing than football, but we're here to speak about it, how it affects our club. Scotty, sorry.
I think from a fan's perspective and those planning to go to Ibrox, do you know, it could be like a mini protest. People decide to go because they don't like the measures that are being put in place, and that's well within their right, and fair enough. Logistically, I just don't see it happening. Even if it goes ahead past the 18th, I don't see how. It's going to be a health and safety hazard. It's going to be dangerous having all these people clogged in. You're going to get people angry. We saw what happened with people trying to get petrol. People are desperate to get into Ibrox. You know, we're just back after 18 months. It's going to be trouble. I would say to people, look, the likelihood of you actually being checked is probably going to be less than more than 1 in 5. It's probably going to be more like 1 in 100, 1 in 500, because there's absolutely no way. Where they're going to stop you? Are they going to stop you down Paisley Road West? They're going to stop you coming out the subway station? Because they certainly can't do it outside Ibrox or at the game.
That would seem where they are probably going to do it, aren't they? They're going to do it as you're trying to walk in. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I think it's a logistical nightmare. So, guys, I think we'll move on from that. I think it's a frustrating topic to go on. I said we're going to have a positive podcast tonight, so not on that. But I think it takes us quite good into the next part. Now, this email came out today, didn't it?
Are you going to talk about the Castor one? 50% off everything, but not this.
No. So fan engagement. Now, the email came out and it says, I'm going to read this, right? Rangers, we're hosting several drop-in sessions over the next month. Do you need the passport to go into these drop-in sessions?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not over 10,000. Less than 10,000.
Nah, yeah, of course. That was actually a joke. These sessions are aimed at supporters who don't use social media or other digital platforms regularly, or feel the need to come in and discuss specific issues on a face-to-face basis. Pretty bold, do we not? What do we think about that, Elaine? It's a pretty bold move.
It is a bit bold, especially putting it out on through email and social media to people who might know if that's who they're trying to get in touch with. But that said, I think it's a good thing, because you know what, I've been critical of the club. I've been critical of how they've engaged with us. I think they could have done a bit more towards, especially the start of the season. I think sometimes we've been left thinking communication from the club hasn't been great. We're sort of asking questions. So actually, if they're going to bring fans in, it depends if they're going to listen to them or not. But it is a bit bold. But maybe it's going in the right direction.
We have sat on here, I suppose, and spoke about how we don't hear enough from the club and certain things like that, Scotty. But do you think this opens up like an avenue for Tom, Dick or Harry to go in there and start asking questions about first team players and try to tell Gerrard and Bill how to do their jobs and stuff like that? It makes me cringe a little bit, I must admit.
Do you know what it reminds me of? I think we must have all seen that Ange Postecoglou when he first signed, and then some of the Celtic fans were asking him like all sorts of questions. Oh my God! I hope they don't televise it. I hope they don't publish it. That's doing our fans a disservice, actually. No. It's pretty bold. It's a bold strategy. I think it needs to be done. One of the things that I was absolutely critical of this season, the start of this season, probably over the summer, was like last season. Going through that last season, I was sat at home and Rangers were a massive release through COVID. And I'm probably the same as you guys, never felt closer to the football club.
Yeah.
And it was quite bizarre considering I couldn't go to Ibrox, I couldn't see all my mates in Glasgow. But good things come out of it, i.e. this. So therefore, like, the community actually became bigger but smaller. So we're all able to communicate with each other. It's been great. And I think that Rangers kind of moved away from that, and it just felt like they saw a massive £, opportunity. Everyone sat at home, we can target them. So they do need to do things like this to engage with the supporters, and it is a really bold thing. I hope they're not expecting a shed load of positivity to come out of it, though.
Yeah.
Despite being top of the league, despite being in Europe, despite all the positives, I think towards the end of the season, they really milked the arse out of it, and we all felt like, right, enough's enough, and they kept doing it. And then it stopped. This all shiny, glossy feeling over Rangers kind of like dissipated.
I didn't even mind it towards the end of last season. I think it's more the start of this season. And I know we're going for positive, but every email, I think it seems to be asking for money. And don't get me wrong, I know we need to balance it, because at the end of the day, we need the money. And I'm the first person to say we want to be signing these players, we want to be doing well. But the fans have put a lot in. Winning the league last year, we put a lot into it, and it just seems at the moment that we are being treated a wee bit like a cash cow. I just feel like every other email. So I think this, I think this is hopefully a good thing and a step forward. Unless you have to pay to get in.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, I just think see with it. Yeah,
it's a tenner, but you get 5 MyJazz points.
No.
I'll do it. I'm in.
I really will. Brian, Brian, what would you be going to something like that? What would you be looking to iron out if you were wanting to go to this, something like that? Or you want to go and tell him not to play Davis and Lundstram in the same team?
No, I'll happily leave that to Mr. Gerrard. It's more customer service stuff I would probably go at. Ticket office, speaking, like, if you have got a niggle of a complaint, just now it seems to be just a wall of it's almost like you get the obligatory sort of email bounce back. Oh, nobody in the office, blah blah. It's all the little things that I think they could just be doing a little bit better on. It's not on the park stuff for me. It's nothing like that. It's just the niggly little things, like they're speaking to somebody in a ticket. I mean, try even phone them.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
It's interesting.
It's just things like that.
Yeah, I think Rangers they'd advertised a position at the club for it was like a head of customer relations or something like that. So it's almost like that position's now been filled, and this is maybe their first little kind of initiative. I think it's quite a brave move. I really do. Okay, guys, just before we move on, just remember to like and subscribe, please. We're so close to 3,000 subscribers. We're on YouTube and Twitter tonight, so there's a bigger audience out there listening to us and watching. So please get onto YouTube and like and subscribe for us. And Patreon as well. We're pushing Patreon. There's shows out there. I've listened to one today about Adam Canworth when he used to play with Rangers, and now he's moved on, and how that felt to him, life after Rangers. So some really good content on Patreon as well. So some of our guys are listening in. I know you maybe aren't on there, but if you are, thank you, and just keep listening to all our stuff. There's a lot more to come as well. So Scotty, I want to keep the ball rolling with you, mate, and keep you in a nice positive attitude. So tell me about this 4:00 kickoff for this semi-final on a Sunday night.
How to ruin your weekend.
What is going on? Come on.
Right, okay.
Where are you going to come up? Where are you planning to come to the semi-final?
Yes, exactly. So for me, that's just like the worst possible kickoff time. They might as well have made it midnight on Sunday. Like I can't get back to London on Sunday, so I'm gonna have to stay over on Monday. But why? Why? 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock? Why are they making it at 4 o'clock? I thought we weren't really allowed to have kickoffs past 3 o'clock because everyone's on the Swally. So we're going to have everyone on the Swally on the Saturday night, wake up, carry on Sunday. Do you know what? I'd love to see an Old Firm kickoff at 5:30. Oh, That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? Yeah,
99. That happened in 99.
Yeah,
it's what
never
happens.
again.
What happens when you get Premier Sports involved, Tim Pot. But
Yeah.
that's Scottish football hierarchy for you.
It's
Short-sighted.
interesting because we thought we would have had the Saturday kickoff because we were named as first out the hat. But I don't know if I think these rules don't apply anymore. But so that's Sunday night, Hibs, Hampden. When is that? November the 20th.
20th and 21st.
In a weird roundabout way, it'll be dictated by Sky, BT Sport. What are the matches they're showing? They'll probably want. I should imagine there'll probably be a clash with the Celtic game, but they don't really care about them, so we'll get prime time slot, no interruptions, Sunday 4:00. That's Sky's like prime time viewing spot, isn't it? On a Sunday, 4:30 kickoff, Super Sunday.
Scotty, are you still coming up for it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
there you
on
go.
the ticket.
Of course he has.
So, by the way, Martin said off camera that there's going to be a Rangers Rabble meetup and he's paying. So we'll go for lunch somewhere.
We're all there.
We're all there already.
12, have a couple of beers. So just shout out to Martin. Thanks very much.
Well
What
done,
a
Mark.
guy.
That's a great shout. What a guy.
And do you know what
Okay.
we'll do as well? When we reach 3,000 subscribers, we'll draw one person out the hat to come join us.
Superb idea. 3,000 subscribers. One of those guys come out the hat and they get
But that
free
only
bar.
happens if
A
we
day with
get
us.
3,000 subscribers tonight. So come on, like and subscribe. Spread the word, people.
Okay, let's just move on before Martin has a heart attack. Big game. So let's just put we're top of the league. All positive. So let's put that aside, and we've got a massive match now on Thursday night. Who are we away to, Scotty?
Slavia Prague.
Oh, come on. We're not going to go down that road with that joke. We're away to Sparta Prague now. Before we get on to what we think we're wanting from the game, who we want to play, one question I want to ask, Brian, away to Sparta Prague, it's to get behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Do you think it's safe for fans to travel?
No. I wouldn't it wouldn't even enter my head to go to that place. Not after what happened last season.
Elaine, do you think
No
people
way.
will travel?
Yes. I think there's probably a core that will be looking. To be fair, I've not seen too many people. I think there'll be a few. But I totally agree with Brian. As soon as the draw was made, it's obviously not Slavia Prague, but I think going over there just is a recipe for disaster. And I think if we can go, get the win, get home, no trouble, happy days.
Yeah.
Not asking
Scotty.
for much.
Yeah. Scotty, will we get the win?
Yeah, I'm fairly confident. I'm fairly confident. I think we always turn up away. Fucking hell, maybe
It
not
suits
this
us, doesn't
season,
it?
But last season, I think it suits our style, and particularly with the players that I expect Davies to play, I expect Kamara to play. I mean, in them two, we've got two real seasoned, experienced players with European football, and having them at the centre of the park and the core and the spine of the team, I think will influence the rest of the players around them. So I'm really positive. It's again, every game is an opportunity to return to form. So I'm sure the players will want to put on a performance. They'll want to be solid as well. And I think Sparta Prague is a really good opportunity to do that because they are, with respect, the weaker of the two Prague sides.
Yeah.
And we do have experience of playing over there, yada, yada, yada. So, again, behind closed doors. Both games behind closed doors. So, yeah, I'm positive. I'm looking forward to the game. And I reckon we'll do the job.
Guys, I'm totally oblivious to this. Does anybody know if this is true? Everybody in the comments is saying there's 10,000 children allowed. I think you're going to have a few skin-headed, bearded children in there. Are we not? Is that? I've not heard that. There were 10,000 kids. Elaine? No.
No, I'm googling it.
I did know there were kids allowed, but I wasn't sure how many. I didn't think it was as many as 10,000. But
not a clue.
If that's the case, yeah, there definitely is kids. I just didn't know the number.
So it
Interesting.
does
I
say
never
that
knew that.
they've been given permission by UEFA, but bizarre.
How does that even work? You know,
I thought it was meant to
10
be.
hooligans take their 10 hooligan children.
Carnage.
Carnage. But Brian, let's just talk about the game. Are you confident? Are you not confident? How are we feeling?
Yeah,
Are we confident after the performances we've put in this season?
but Europe's, for some reason, it's a different gravy. It's a different sort of game. It seems to suit us. Away from home, certainly, we've put in a lot of good performances away from home over the last couple of seasons with Gerrard. So, no, Europe seems to suit us away from home, and even if I know it sounds, well, even if we draw the game, it's not the biggest disaster getting a draw away from home in Europe. But obviously, you want to win the game. But no, I'm quietly confident we'll get a result.
Elaine, Alan McGregor comes back in, doesn't he?
Yep. I just wish he would pick his keeper. Clearly, he's clearly he was resting McGregor for Thursday. I think it was Scotty who touched on it earlier with Goldson's form. I think you just pick a keeper. McGregor's brilliant. You know, we could talk all day about some of the saves he's made, how good he is, and being do you know John McLaughlin as well? Great deputy to have. To me, going into this season, there was no question that McGregor was number one. I would still see it that way, but then by the same token, I would just, I hope that Gerrard just picks his keeper and sticks with it, because we're too far in now. Chopping and changing, I don't think helps anybody. But it'll be good to have him back.
Scotty, John McLaughlin. So this happened last. We touched on this before as well. This happened last season. John McLaughlin was in goals for like the first 10 games. So it's almost like it's reoccurring. Is it just a matter of time? Is it just a matter of time for McGregor to come in and just stay in?
See, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Again, I'd love to have the opportunity to sit in a presser with Gerrard and ask him some questions, because by the amount of times that John McLaughlin has played, and if you notice when he missed games, it's usually because it was through COVID. Most of the other times he played, barring Malmo in Europe, and again, I don't think McGregor really covered himself in glory in those games. So I've got a sneaking suspicion that McLaughlin is actually coming in to play more than McGregor this season.
Oh.
Now, we're approaching a big part of the season where we've got a lot of big games coming up in a short period of time. And as Elaine touches on, we don't want to be chopping and changing our keeper. I wouldn't be surprised to see McLaughlin between the sticks on Thursday and on Sunday. And to be honest, I wouldn't even be disappointed. I'd say good on McLaughlin, good on you, you deserve it. Because I don't think McGregor's really covered himself in any glory at all.
Brian, do you think time's catching up with Alan McGregor?
Seems to be more apparent this season. He's certainly not started the games I thought he would start, and it's horrible to say it, but it could be. It really could be. It's so horrible to see that after the season he had last season. He marshalled everybody great last season. He kept that clean sheets, and but I don't know.
You sound like you're getting a bit emotional there.
I know, Brian. It's fine. It'll be okay.
It's Alan. It's Alan.
He's still here. Guys, I'm still confident that it's so early. I feel we get dragged into, we need to watch. I think it's so early. 7 league games, 6 league games, 7 league games. I think McGregor will be back in, and I think he'll probably see this season out, and then he'll go. Elaine, my big question's been: is John McLaughlin his deputy just now to be the number one next season?
Well, yeah, quite possibly. I think. I would probably say so, because what are you looking at? Robbie McCrory did well. Absolutely no complaints about him. Would he step into the number one slot? I think it's probably unlikely. Potentially we go and sign someone, but I think we've got a great keeper there in John McLaughlin as well. Time will tell this season. I think actually both of them, whichever one he chooses, both of them would benefit from a solid run. Although we're touching there on McGregor's maybe not hit the heights, chopping and changing doesn't help him either. I wouldn't be opposed to John McLaughlin being the number one next season. Not so sure that we're ready for it just yet. But and he got his Scotland call up as well. So yeah, and do you know, he was probably one of the players that got pass marks at the weekend.
McGregor's always had this question mark over his back, and I just think this is with mind: is McGregor going to be able to play 50 games, 60 games this season? And I'm not too sure. I mean, there's no doubt that even a bad Alan McGregor is better than 99% of the goalkeepers in Scotland.
Yeah.
And on your life, when there's a penalty, you'd want him in goal, regardless of whether he's got a broken back or not. And I'm actually a massive fan of his. That goes without saying. And I'd love for a fit Alan McGregor to play those 60 games. But if we're going to have Alan McGregor in goal, you need to be sure that he's going to be capable of doing that. Otherwise, in 4 weeks' time, we're going to be back to square one, chopping and changing. So I think it might even be a case that McLaughlin is going to play for the next 5 games or to the international break or whatever, and give McGregor as long as possible to make sure that he can play week in, week out from a certain point.
Yeah.
These questions need to be asked.
Yes.
But you're the person to do it.
Yeah, Scotty, you are.
Well, yeah, get Martin to pay that 25 grand.
Get into these fan engagement sessions. Brian, do you think it's what Scotty's saying? Do you think we could almost share the role this season? Is that, or do we need some more? Do we need some better continuity than chopping and changing the keeper?
I've always said pick a goalie and pick 2 centre halves. That's the crux of your team. For me, that's the area of the park you should never ever tamper with unless it's injuries or suspensions. And I've always said that. It's been, if you look at any great team that's won a league, even down south in England, you've had your Schmeichels, your Vidiches, and your Ferdinands, and then you've had Chelsea with Cech, Terry, and Carvalho. They never swapped and changed them in league games. They pretty much played every game for their respective clubs. And I've always been an advocate keeping the goalie, the centre halves, the same as much as possible.
So who starts for you then on Thursday?
Andy Firth.
No. Best job in the world.
Well, the way it's looking just now, it'll be McLaughlin, Balogun, and Goldson.
Elaine, do you agree with that? Surely McGregor's coming back in here, folks. Come on. McGregor was just rested.
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was rested. I think you'd see McGregor come back in. I think that it's got to be Goldson and Balogun, and that's the same. Absolutely the same as Brian. Going forward, unless there's a reason, I would keep them until Hollander's back fit as well. I wouldn't be chopping and changing. Yeah. I think Balogun maybe gets a wee bit of a hard time from us. I would 100% have him in until Hollander's back fit.
A bit of breaking news. Scotty, Stuart Keane just stole my thunder there. But yeah, I seen Rangers are 1-0 up in under 19s. Robbie Ewers, so that's a good start.
Got them in the coupon, so that's good.
Yeah, I seen that in the chat earlier on. Anyway, Scotty, how do we go about getting a result on Thursday? You do it. Go, Michael Beale it. Tell us how we do it.
Well, I've never been asked this before.
Does Davis come back in then? There's an easier question.
We start with 11 men. We try not to get anyone sent off. We score one more goal than they do.
You can tell, that's not what I was looking for. Anyway, sorry.
I think we know how we play. We play the same way, week in, week out, away from home, at home. We play the same way. Without the ball, we've got our patterns of play, and we move across the pitch and we shift across the pitch really well. I think it is a concern that teams, particularly in Europe and those who do their homework, have figured us out slightly. And actually, I think teams actually figured us out 2 years ago with the quick switch of play, diagonal cross ball. Yeah. Can't really cope with it. So we really need to find a way to counter that. That and the really high press. We sometimes struggle with that. That said, I've got to be honest, folks, I don't really know too much about Sparta Prague. I know all about Slavia Prague, but not too much about Sparta Prague. So I'm still confident, and if we can, it's the old cliche. If we turn up there and do what we do, I'm confident we'll win, and I'm basing that on having watched Slavia Prague last season and how we played against them. Because I thought we didn't play to our best again. I thought we were missing a few key players as well, and players out of form. Kind of similar where we are now, but I think we're a little bit wiser, particularly going into Europe. So I'm expecting a solid performance. No stopping goals, please.
Yeah. I know there was a few comments in the comment section about. I think I seen someone. Remember Sparta Prague? Did they put Celtic out last season? Give them a bit of a doing, didn't they? Yeah. I think one of the guys that scored the goals for was a hat trick even. I don't think he's perhaps not playing, so there's maybe some good news coming out there.
That's because he was a reserve striker.
Oh yeah, so he was.
It wasn't even their first team.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's how bad it was. Yeah.
Elaine, Steve Davis comes back in for us, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I'd like to think so. Absolutely. He's kind of, although I would agree with what was said earlier, is that we need to find a way, or Lundstrom and Davis playing together probably isn't the answer. And then do you drop, especially after seeing how defensive Gerrard was, I don't think there's a chance that Lundstrom's dropped for this game. So I think we're either looking at Lundstrom and Davis playing together and seeing whether we can find a way of making that work, or Lundstrom on his own. But certainly for the big nights, you want your big players, and Stephen Davis would be, for me, one of the first names.
Brian, who is your midfield three? Kamara and Davis have got to play for me.
It's, as Elaine says, you can't shoehorn Davis and Lundstrom in this team now. It's quite clear. So, yeah, as Elaine said again, you need your big player, which is Davis. Kamara complements Davis, and I would have Hadji in the middle three.
Scotty's nodding. I know Hadji's his boy. Is that where you're putting Hadji in there?
I think he has to be in there. I think it's his best position. And I think he's just been put in the front of three to get him up to speed and get some minutes in his legs, and then he'll come back. And then I quite like how Hadji and Aribo interchange anyway. But I think Aribo's got a bit more pace about him. He's got a bit more physicality, and particularly away from home in Europe, that comes in handy a lot.
And his feet are like Velcro.
Yes, yeah.
That ball sticks to his feet beyond me.
Yeah, I expect to see him. Obviously, Morelos and definitely not Sakala and Roof up front.
So I want to put that in there. Just let me jump on that, because there's been a few people commenting here, putting Fashion Sakala's name in there. Have we seen anything that means we can trust him in a start as big as this, or are we starting them in European games to give them some time because we feel that the league games are more important, Elaine?
Potentially, actually, this is one of the games that he'd be more suited to playing in Europe. I still think he's got a wee bit of, he's a kind of like rough diamond. I think he will come good. I think he looks lively, but I think this would be too much too soon. But then that said, giving him a go in Europe, I'd be tempted to be bringing him on later, because he does play with a lot of energy. When we saw him at home, was it against Motherwell? I think I thought he looked pretty lively, and he was doing a lot of pressing. So potentially that works later on in the game. I think this would be too soon to start him in a big European game.
Scotty, get it off your chest. I can see you want to say something about it.
I'm itching. I spoke with John, and John talked about him on Sunday, and I really trust his opinion. He's watched a lot of Sakala, and he does need a run of games, and 20 minutes at the end of the game is not going to help him. In terms of where he is at the moment, we're not in a position to experiment, particularly on Thursday. We need to, almost like last season, we need to get this group done, qualified as quick as possible and know where we are. And then later in the group, have the opportunity to play these guys. Remember, if we won the group, and then we ended up playing Lech Poznan, and we won away, and guys like Itten got run out. So that's what I'd be looking to do. But I do also think that away from home in Europe, he's potentially where he would be of most use, particularly with his energy, his pressing of the defenders and the spacing behind. He's just so raw. He's like a bull in the china shop. He reminds me of watching when we first signed Philip Sheebo. And I can't shake it. I can't see it. It's like him and Scott Wright. The lack of quality is frightening. Not ready yet. But I'll give him time. And
yeah, I'm not putting it that. Brian, CG, no, Scotty, I'll maybe get to it. Yeah, we have mentioned Patreon, folks, haven't we? I've mentioned it twice, actually. So, yeah, folks, subscribe. The content's fantastic. It's only £2. It's actually just to support us. If you like what we're doing, it's almost like a donation. But there's great stuff to listen to as well. Sorry, I just lost my way there because there's a few cracking comments in there, right? Scotty, do you have a mural above your bed of Ruth?
No, my boy's here.
Man, I knew that. CGM also said Lundstrom, Davis, Kamara. That hasn't worked.
No.
Oh, God, do not get like Malmo flashbacks.
No. Can't happen.
Why can that not happen? It's pretty. The names ring some solidity. Is it because Lundstrom can't play anything other than the 6?
I've just got no confidence that it's not worked in the past, so why is it going to work in the future? I just don't fancy that at all. We need a creative spark in that midfield, and Hadji is the boy. And
yeah.
I'm actually starting to come round to the idea of Sakala starting on Thursday because we obviously play differently away from home in Europe, and I think his absolute pace to burn might come in handy.
Right, okay. I really get that. But the guy has zero discipline. See, when we played the likes of Benfica, for example, probably the best example, you could see the literal shape of the midfield 3. And with obviously it's a lot better when Ryan Kent plays, but the front 3, you can literally see them rotate around like this. Sakala can't do that. He cannot do that. He's not ready yet. He's just no. He'll just end up pulling out of position. We'll get things start falling apart. That is a training thing, and it's something that you can't pick up in a couple of months. Remember the first season that we had under Gerrard? We start looking like we go back to that because we're losing the shape. We need end of second season. Really saw it last season. Last season was brilliant to watch.
Elaine, is there any surprises into the starting 11, do you think?
Oh, knowing Gerrard, probably. I hope not. Yeah, I can agree with everything that you guys have been saying. I'd like to see McGregor in. I'd like to see Davis in. I think the front 3 pick themselves. I think the whole team pretty much picks itself. And then it's just whether or not, we'll see how it goes. I'm not convinced it's going to be a tough game. Any game away in Europe is going to be tough. I think it might be slightly harder than maybe we're making out, but it is when we play our best stuff. And actually, the games where we've played well this season have been the games on paper that you'd probably think were a wee bit harder. So hopefully Thursday night's when we kick on and it's the real sort of second start to the season.
Yeah, I also think that Morelos is probably going to get a lot more joy on Thursday than he does on a Sunday. He's probably going to get a bit more time because Leon, if you look at the game against Leon, he barely got a sniff. And you just put that down to Leon's quality, and they are a quality outfit, sadly. And like that was actually quite disappointing because going back to that game, you're really expecting someone like Morelos to use his strength and kind of like get us out of the situation that he was in. So there's probably less pressure on him to do that, but also with more freedom, hopefully, for him to come into the game. If he doesn't work after Thursday, then we've really got to have a serious chat about him.
Elaine, we started off the pod by kind of been a bit disappointed with Morelos, his performances of late. He's got to start, and he could be the match winner, couldn't he?
Always. I just, even when he's not playing well, I know I touched on it earlier, but even when he's not playing well, he's such a good outball. He's so good, especially in Europe. Away from home, he's going to hold the ball up. He's going to get his chances. And I always reckon he's good for taking one. So no, I will stick with him. I think on his day, he's just head and shoulders above anything else that we've got, and I think that's the problem. And it's always the only thing, or well, the two things. It's attitude and fitness, and I suppose they go hand in hand as well. But yeah, hopefully it's just the game that he kind of turns it around, because he's so good when he's on it.
Yeah, I agree. Brian?
There was a moment on Sunday, I don't know if anybody else noticed it. Morelos got fouled, and he didn't get the foul. The ball was only 5-6 yards away, and he took off like a train at the ball. And I was just like, oh no, he's going to clatter into him. But he's almost like he needs one of the defenders to sort of niggle at him and get him going. There's nobody sort of really battling with him and sort of winding him up. Not to the point, obviously, that he reacts, but just he loves to engage in the battle with the defenders, and nobody's doing that just now.
Yeah. Okay. Scotty, we win. What guys? I'll go down. What's our predictions?
3-1.
Scotty, 3-1. Who's doing it for us then? Who's the man of the match here? Who's
Haji? Oh, who's Haji?
Haji, of course. That is. I shouldn't even
Always.
mention that. Brian.
2-0 and
No, try not to say Haji, aren't you?
Haribo.
He's rolling his eyes at me and he's trying not to say Haji. Shocking.
Elaine, do you agree with Scotty? Haji? Listen, I think Haji could be the difference, but I'm going with Morelos in these nights all day long. Elaine?
I can't see us not conceding, so I'll go for 2-1. 2-1, and as long as it's not McGregor that's man of the match, we're fine.
Yeah, we'll take that. We can't handle another night like that, folks. Thanks for joining in. It was a good night, a good discussion. Some topics we had to get off our chest, but again, like and subscribe on YouTube, like and share on Twitter. We are so close, and of course, in the description below is our Patreon. So, thanks for chatting tonight, Brian.
Cheers, mate. Enjoy. Pleasure as always.
Yeah, Elaine, thank you.
Not bother.
Nice
Thanks
to see
very
you.
much for having me.
Scotty, as always, voice of reason,
Thank you very much.
Cheers, folks. Thank you.
Take it easy.